I need to go upstairs and learn about a department's budget and what they're asking. So, but thank you for being here. I think this is an important issue to talk about. We're happy to see that it's something that the public's interested in, and that we have a good turnout. So today's meeting is just we're talking about residential, the impact that noise has on the residential community. We're going to have another meeting for the business community, and then a meeting all together at the end for a wrap up meeting. And so what the format, if you got an agenda, you'll see the format, the different impacts the noise has on the residential community. We're looking for your input. We know that, any type of noise is detrimental to your health and to living and trying to enjoy your peace and quiet of your residential community. So we want to be informed about that and know what the impact is, and then hopefully we'll draft up an ordinance that is beneficial to everybody. So I had worked 8 years in Miami Beach, and South Beach, as you know, is similar to areas in Key West, and we had a district that was called the Entertainment District in South Beach, and you still had a residential community. So we have to have a balance there. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Jim, and thank you very much again for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Childress. Before we get started, I'd like to ask if you would put your cell phones on silence or turn them off, because this meeting is being recorded and we don't want any interference. Second, I'd like to make some more introductions. This young lady over here is Ashley Dixon. She's our legal analyst in code. In the back is Amanda Brady. She is the chief licensing official. To my right is Commissioner Jimmy Weekly. According to the newspaper, he's got the loudest district. In the back somewhere, I saw County Commissioner Jim Scholl. To my left is Assistant City Attorney Nicholas Travato, who advises code compliance. The purpose of this meeting, or all these meetings, the purpose is to allow the residents and business owners to ask questions and, most importantly, express their concerns about the current ordinances and possible solutions. These meetings are not to ban live music or close bars or put anybody out of business. So let's get that out of the way. This meeting is a problem that's been going on in the city for a while. And the reason we're having these city meetings is it's our problem. We are the city. Not only the people that work for the city, but you all who live here and work here. So over here we have a map. This map designates the zones of the noise areas. The city is basically divided into 3 zones: core commercial, which is the green, commercial, which is the yellow, and then residential, which is the white. One of the issues we have in code enforcement is the fact that in each district there's different parameters for violations. There's 2 types of noise complaints: disturbing noise, which we would have to prove is raucous and jarring, and it's somewhat of a subjective test. And then unreasonable excessive noise, which requires the use of a decibel meter. And that can be very challenging to the code department, because in each district they have, like I said, different levels of violations. There's certain restrictions. We can't run the decibel meter if it's 15 miles per hour wind or above. So it becomes quite challenging. So that's why we're having this meeting, to get the input and suggestions from you all to either change the ordinance, keep it the same, or modify it to what other cities have. In the short research I have done, a lot of cities use the decibel. But a majority do not use a decibel meter. They go with a subjective standard. Basically, if a code officer or a police officer can hear it, then it's a violation. So that's why we're all here today. I would like to turn the floor over to whoever wants to ask a question or make a statement.
Before we begin with the questions, I just want to note that Dorian has this side of the room. I'm going to come over to this side. We are going to get to all of your questions, and Ashley is going to write them down. If you have a question that hasn't previously already been asked, keep your hand raised. We're going to come to you one at a time. And please do not speak unless you have the mic, because this is being recorded and they won't be able to hear you unless you have the microphone. Okay?
Hi, thank you. Christopher Ellis, 1114 Watson Street. My question is, why do we allow the Casa Marina to have fireworks shows? It's not anything that's needed, necessary for the community. It benefits 200 people who are at a wedding reception. I understand they have to go through a process, but a decibel of fireworks, if you look at any decibel meter, and it's not in this one here, but if you go on the internet, fireworks are number one, 150 decibels. A rock concert's 110. So I'm right down the street, and about 6 times a year, there's a wedding reception. Fireworks go off for 15 minutes. My dogs freak out. All the dogs in the neighborhood freak out. They're terrified. So why are we allowing the loudest man-made noise to happen within a half a mile of my house? And there's no buffer. If there's a concert at Bayside Park when they do the seafood festival, something like that, I might hear the music in the background. It's low, but I've got all these houses between me. There, it's right there coming at me. So special events, 4th of July, 200th anniversary of Key West, sure. What's so special about a guy impressing his friends because his daughter's getting married? You know, I don't understand it. And can we please stop that? Thank you.
Thank you.
He needs his microphone on.
Hear me? Can you hear me now?
You guys can take a seat wherever you like.
Need a musician's mic.
Hello.
Okay, can you hear me now? So yes, there is a procedure. Basically, code is not involved in that procedure,
We're making
but the
copies
fire
for you.
department is. And I don't know if our special events coordinator is involved in these private fireworks displays, but it's a good question, and Ashley has written it down, that these are one of the things that we're going to bring back. And the whole one of the other intentions of having these meetings is to gather the information in the comments and take it back to our city commissioners, so they can decide what changes they would want to make in the ordinance. But to answer the whole question, I can't. They just follow the simple procedure that's already written on the books. Yes, sir?
My name is Robert Herndon. I live at 1800 Venetia Street. My question is that we have had live music here for at least since the mid '60s. I believe that the Beatles in 1964, they were delayed one day from playing in Jacksonville, and they came down here, and they had played with all the local musicians until the bars closed. The following night in Jacksonville, as a small kid, I saw them, and now I understand why they only paid 25 minutes, because they were hungover from being here. But there is a long history of live music, and I understand people are concerned about maybe being infringed on. you know, 6 times a year, or maybe more. Decibel level here on this thing says that 90 decibels is like a boiler room, and a quick look up, 90 decibels is also a rooster crowing. There's not one person, regardless of what side you're on this, there's not one person in this entire room that wants all the roosters gone. Well, they crow, there's no limit. I mean, they crow all the time.
Let's ticket the rooster.
I live in Midtown, far away from the music, and pick an hour, they crow. And they crow at 90 decibels. Everybody knows that there's live music here and that there's roosters. I think that we just need to deal with it.
Yes, thank you. We have actually had code cases involving roosters and barking dogs. The last rooster case I remember was several years ago, and the owner brought the rooster to court dressed as a cowboy, and it was quite interesting. So, but we do deal with that. Basically, when we get those type of complaints of barking dogs or roosters, code becomes the vehicle for the complainants, the complainant and the respondent. We will issue a notice of hearing, but basically we allow the complainant to put on their case, the respondent to respond, okay, and then the judge will make the decision.
I just wanted to point out that the rooster makes as much noise.
Yes, and that's a good point. And if there's any more historical questions, that's why I have Commissioner Weekly here.
All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna rotate back and forth, so that way that side. So he's gonna go next, and then you'll be next. Okay. And you'll be next.
Hi, I'm Paul Schussler. I'm on the board of Key West by the Sea. We're on Smathers Beach, and we have the distinction of living right next door to a resort that got its name from Jimmy Buffett's famous ballad to the Keys. And if you know anything about that resort, it is a pool area, a bar, a very complex and aggressive sound system that is around a horseshoe of 3-story buildings that's pointed directly 100 feet away from the balconies on our buildings. Now, so we hear that noise from 12 noon until 12 midnight on the best of days because they play Margaritaville music on their sound system. It's a serious problem, and it's well above the disturbing noise level. Now, our perception is that when we've called code enforcement in the past, they will take a period of time to respond to this noise complaint. And when they do, they have notified the offending establishment, who, when the code enforcers come out, mysteriously the noise has disappeared. So I think that something needs to be done in terms of how we are enforcing these codes and these violations, because it clearly is a problem to the 400 residents of Key West by the Sea who hear this noise constantly. I want to tell you one other story, and this is another incident that has happened recently. We are across from Smathers Beach, which is a big wedding venue, and we have one area, and these are serviced by vendors who cater to putting on weddings, and we have one that transports their people by bus to the wedding. And this bus has a luggage rack on the top, not for luggage, but for the purpose of having 4 large speakers mounted on each corner. And when the wedding gets done and the driver wants to go home, he turns on those speakers at full blast in the parking area along Smathers Beach. Now, again, I've gone out there and put a decibel reading on it. It's over 100 decibels when he is cranking, and the longer he waits, the more he wants to go home, the louder the music gets. And that is a code enforcement problem, because as soon as he's loaded up, they're gone. But it's a real problem. So just want to present that to you for consideration.
Thank you. Just to address, well, I'm going to address both. First of all, I will look into code officers notifying the offender before they take a reading. But we have to notify the offender at some point, because we have to ask them to turn the music down so we can get an ambient reading. So, but I don't see why a code officer would tell the offending party, oh, we have a complaint against you, let me go talk to the complainant. Your second issue, and I'm not trying to, pawn anything off, but that is a police issue. Anything with vehicles is a police issue, because code officers do not have the authority to pull a vehicle over. And even if it's stopped, we had instances where we tried to pull over gypsy cabs, stopped, and they took off. So we can't chase them.
That's good information. Thank you. You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Charlie Brumley. I live at 419 William Street. I am also the 2022 Key West Music Fan of the Year. So, I'm going to start with a statement and then ask a really serious question after it, if that's okay. The statement is, Key West music has been a diverse music town for years. We have more different styles of music than any other city in the world. About 10 years, 15 years ago, I noticed a change in the times that a lot of bars stopped playing music. When I first started coming here in 1988, I'd walk out of a bar at 2:30 in the morning and the band was still playing. Now it's more like 12:30, 1 o'clock. So I'm not sure where this ordinance is trying to take things, because it's already been, it's already been done that the music's stopping earlier than it used to here. The musicians here depend on their jobs to make a living. And here, you'll speak to any of the musicians that are here, you can probably make a better living here than in Nashville, where you have to pay music. You have to pay the bar to play your music just to get noticed. Here, we have a thriving music scene. And to add anything that's going to hinder these individuals I am totally against. Now here's the serious question. I am also an OSHA and NEB certified sound and vibration engineer. I want to know who's taking these decibel readings, what training they've had, and how often are these instruments calibrated?
Okay, last question.
And I'm not looking for a job, but I'll do it if you want me to.
Okay. Last question first. They're calibrated every year. Okay. Who does the readings? The code officers that have gone through a certification training session. So they're all certified. Think of it as a police officer that runs radar. They have to go through certification.
And who's that by, OSHA?
No, it's actually by the company.
That makes
Or
the
no, I'm
equipment?
sorry. The designated trainer is a Key West police officer who went through the training class from the company that we had purchased the sound level meters from.
So let me ask this question again. So there's one person on the department that is certified in this, and he's the one that gives the training to the others. So the others with the meter, if it's not him, are not certified in using the meter, correct?
Right, but out of my 9 code officers, 2 are not certified yet. And I have code officers working 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to midnight.
Okay.
And that's why we ask, when you have a noise complaint after midnight, or on weekends, contact Key West Police non-emergency number.
Thank you for that.
Jim, I have a question over here.
Andrew Morowski, 105 South Point Drive. Jim, just kind of want to, hopefully you can clarify a few things. In this little packet it says 100 feet from the property line. With how Key West is built, how we're stacked on top of each other, I mean, someone's backyard is right there. So, how is that going to be enforced? And then if we're not using decibels, if it's just somebody listening to the music from a certain amount, my hearing's shot from working in the service industry, working around loud music and everything. So what I hear from 100 feet is going to be completely different than probably almost every single person in this room. So if you can just kind of elaborate on how that's going to be enforced, how the consistency of calls and citations are going to be written, that'd be fantastic.
Sure. That 100-foot rule, I call it, is for disturbing noise complaints. So you can make a disturbing noise complaint as long as you're 100 feet away from the sound source. The unreasonable excessive noise, it's divided into two. In the core commercial district, we take the reading from the property line of the sound source. In a commercial district and residential district, we take the reading from the property line of the complaining party, and there's no distance. Make sense? Next question.
Yeah, this is Nate McIntyre. 908 Trinity Drive, number 3. I'm sure you're familiar with the Van Wagena pool parties that are $100 each to get into now. My question, and I've brought it up several times, is one with disturbing noise. We've had people out there multiple times because of a disturbing noise, and something that the code officers always bring up to is in the definitions of disturbing noise, it means actual, in the last sentence, means actual interference with one's ability to peacefully enjoy their residence. And when I bring this up to the code officer, they're like, well, we can have a normal conversation. It's not a disturbing noise. And I'm like, okay, I understand that, but let's go inside my house where my kids are getting tutored and we're 180 feet away from the pool party and my kids can hear the thumping of the bass while they're getting tutoring. That's the only time that pool party has been shut down in the 9 times I've called code since September. So why, I guess my question is I've got the utmost respect for the code officers. They're doing their jobs. I think we need to give them more tools so that they don't have to enter my house that's 180 feet away from the pool party to be like, yeah, this is a disturbing noise. You know, in most counties that I've been in the past, we've all been to college, most of us in college towns, and when you live off campus, the first thing you figure out is the noise ordinances for your parties. And, you know, most of them where I lived, it was more than 75 feet or whatever the case may be. If it was audible, that was an immediate citation. So I guess as a suggestion, I guess, you know, coming up with something that is in excess of 100 feet, like 100 audible more than 150 feet, because I've been out there multiple times and code officers have been like, Nate, we understand it's loud, but, you know, at the front of my porch, we're at 157 feet and I can hear a DJ doing cuss words with my kids running around. You know, 8 months ago, they didn't have these parties and now they're having these parties. This isn't in Old Town. This is over in New Town. And the code's a little bit different versus core versus commercial. And they're right on the property line where it's 100 feet. And after 100 feet, according to code, they don't need a decimal meter. So it's up to the discretion of a code officer to determine if there's an interference with my ability to enjoy my residence. So a code officer is making that determination, not me on my own property as a property owner. So that's like a legal thing. Like, how can a code officer determine if I'm peacefully enjoying my property or not?
Well, the disturbing noises complaints that we've taken to the before the special magistrate, we treated it just like the barking dog and the rooster. We become the vehicle. I actually had ordered digital recorders for people calling in disturbing noise complaints. We would issue it to them, have them record it. When they felt it was a violation, we would issue a notice of hearing, and basically they would present their case to explain to the special magistrate why it was disturbing their normal enjoyment of their home or business. I also did some research, and that area is considered commercial where the sound source was, and we did respond and issue that hotel a code violation. So, but we ran the decimal meter.
I'll get it to you. Wait until you get your mic.
Wait till they're 3 and out.
There's 3 violations. Why aren't they 3 and out? There's no sound
3 strikes you're out.
That pertains to establishments that have an entertainment license. If they're found in violation of the sound control ordinance within 3 times within a 12-month period, the city manager may conduct a hearing to revoke their entertainment license. But as far as a 3-strike rule for a normal excessive noise violation, there is none. What we have is the first violation is a certain fine. The second time, if it occurs, they're cited as a repeat, and the fines go up.
Jim Gillern, 801 Duval Street, 801 Bourbon Bar. I've been involved with a number of these charrettes or meetings to try to come to a conclusion on how we can all live together on this small island and have entertainment. I do have some feedback, having had some issues, having some sound issues, going back to a nightclub called the Copa, and now the place on 801 Duval Street. And I do have a suggestion: if you own a business and you have a bar or an establishment and you have neighbors that are unhappy, my experiences, having dealt with my own property, is the best thing to do is to meet with that person and or meet with your commissioner with that person in their residence or near their residence. It's a small island. We call it, you know what it is, one human family. For me, that's proven successful. Commissioner Weekly, I'm sure, gets many phone calls from folks that are unhappy because maybe they can't enjoy the peaceful enjoyment in their home, and we're all looking for that. I choose particularly to live in Newtown. It's pretty quiet out there, but I do hear the airplanes go by. But and I've also lived in Old Town, where it's a little bit noisier. But once again, if you have a neighbor and you own an establishment, you own a business and you have a neighbor that's not terribly happy, as soon as that line of communication goes away, you end up with situations where people are very, very unhappy. I can also say you can run a business successfully and have entertainment and live entertainment without making your neighbors nutty. So that's one thing. So hopefully someone may come out of this. It might be someone who has a home here and then there's a business, a couple doors down, and maybe those people can get together and say, hey, listen, can I call you directly? You might have an employee that's out of control that you're not, don't know about. So anyhow, having gone through this, I applaud the city for putting this together. It's nice. They're going to have 3 meetings. I think it's important to get all the stakeholders involved and, looking for some conclusion. And I do have one question. Does the city have a timeline where they want to come up with, let's say, a new ordinances, or is this a 3-month process or a 6-month process? Are you looking at a time to come to some conclusion? Is this some conclusions on all the data you're gathering?
My hope is to conduct these community meetings and then put together a summary of the meetings and then get it on the city agenda as soon as we can. That's my goal. I mean, the new city manager, I think it was his first or second commission meeting, was directed by the commission to look at amending the sound control ordinance. And here we are, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. So, and whatever avenue we go, I had a person call me, an attorney, suggesting that the city not be involved in it. That if you have an issue, loud music, you file a civil suit. When I mentioned that to a few residents, they were like, well, what are we paying taxes for? The city's supposed to be, ensuring our quality of life. But these are all these ideas, like I said, we're going to take before the commission. But to answer your question, I'd like to get this on an agenda as soon as possible.
Okay. Again, make sure I can see everybody saying, I'm working from the front to the back. We haven't even gotten past the second row yet, but I see your hands. But make sure that you don't ask any questions unless you get the mic, but you got to wait until the mic gets to you to ask the question.
Matthew McCarthy, 410 Caroline Street. I'd like to suggest that every establishment that has an entertainment license be required at their cost, perhaps hiring a sound engineer, to install a recording device that code enforcement has internet access to, wherever their headquarters might be. And with that, without having to send guys out, having to call, having to do this dance around where they come up and they do meter readings and it's one number, it's this number, they real time have access at all time to the sound being created by all these established with entertainment licenses. And that way there's simply no dispute what kind of sound they're in fact producing.
Yes. The planning department used to put conditions on new bars and restaurants where they would have to have a computerized digital sound system. Just like you just explained. We had access to a certain establishment. We can go online, monitor it. The problem with that we found was our ordinance says we can't use a computerized digital sound system. We have to use the decibel meter if it's a loud excessive noise complaint, which is generally loud music.
Perhaps
So-
the city ordinance should be updated to technology that's available now in 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I
Thank you.
introduced Ashley. She's writing everything down.
Thank you.
We'll get to you in a minute, sir.
Hello? Two. Hi, Bobby Laurie, Island House, Fleming Street. I'm hearing a lot about sound related to what I would call cultural noise here in Key West. A lot of music, a lot of other things like that. And I'm surprised that we haven't heard yet anything about the horrific noise that comes from landscaping. And in particular, I'm put off by hearing leaf blowers and weed whackers and power pruners at 7 a.m. And I've had enough of that. My question to you is there a time before which those are not allowed or supposed to be operated? I mean, in my dream world, I would buy every landscaper in this town a golden-handled broom and retire your your leaf blower. But knowing that that's not likely to happen, can we at least establish a new guideline for at what hour of the morning those folks can start operating those horrendous noisemakers? Thank you.
Yes, and to answer part of your question, there is in the sound ordinance a section that deals with construction equipment, but it's only for sound levels produced from tools and equipment in commercial construction or demolition, not leaf blowers or weed whackers. So maybe we could amend that. Right, but it only prohibits gas blowers unless it's a half-acre property. It doesn't discuss what time they can start or the noise they emanate. Where's the?
Dorian, you have a question in the back, and then I have one over here, and then the gentleman in the front we can get to.
We got a whole bunch of them. I'm working my way back that way because there's hands all up in here. So he's got it. Go ahead.
My name, is it on? Yep. My name is Peter Wagner. I live in Upper Duval. Some of you know me. I want to thank the city for putting this together too. I've spent 40 years trying to protect my neighborhood from noise. So I'm particularly grateful to be here. And I'd like to make an observation, and then I have a germ of an idea. The observation is, I remember years ago, I work out of state some, but I remember years ago, they started passing laws where they didn't want smoking in bars and entertainment facilities. And the industry was up in arms. They said it would put them out of business. And it was exactly the opposite. They had to do outdoor facilities for smoking, and it actually increased their business. And the point I'm trying to make is that I think nobody wants to put the music industry out of business in this town, or the live performance industry in this town out of business. And I think they should be careful to assume that any restrictions or anything that's done to make them more neighborly is going to negatively impact their business. I'm not sure that those two things go together. And the smoking ban is a perfect example. Bars actually started doing more business because people that didn't want to smell smoke felt comfortable going there. So I just want to make sure that people aren't overly afraid of the idea of some restrictions and accommodating neighborhoods. The germ idea I have is, I've never understood, I've brought this up before. I agree with the gentleman who suggested everyone ought to have an entertainment license. And entertainment license renewals shouldn't be automatic. There should be a period before they are reissued for public input. so that neighbors have an opportunity to talk to the city about whether that business is being neighborly. Kind of ties into what Jim said. If people talk to each other, they can really make progress. And you could even increase the cost of an entertainment license in order to raise the funds to create a process whereby neighbors get 30 days, 60 days, 45 days, and some sort of process and structure so that they could have some input on whether or not that enterprise should be allowed to continue to have entertainment.
Hi, Pat Stecker, 645 United Street. I just want to comment on what Charles said earlier about, live music. The last time we had this go round and we haggled over the decibel readings, we did see some decrease in live music, and used to be able to enjoy live music till 4 in the morning. So I would definitely be against any lowering of those decibel levels, and I would even suggest we should perhaps raise them, because live music is an important part of our economy and our quality of life.
Yeah, my name is Peter Cohn. I live in the middle of the 1300 block of Elizabeth Street. I've lived in that house since February of '77, 46 years. The first 20 years, more than 20 years, I never heard any live music or roosters on my street. And we were all noticed that the owner of the neighboring properties, the South Wind, the Siesta Motel, and the Ocean Breeze, which were all united under one name, the South Wind, owned by Mark Mizell, who does not live in Key West. And he wanted to put in a bar, and all the neighbors were noticed by the city that they were going to put in a bar and liquor store. But we were not noticed that there was going to be an outdoor entertainment venue that was going to be making all kinds of loud noise that we were going to be hearing until 11 o'clock at night. And it's loud. My house has got triple pane impact windows, and I can hear it over my TV with all my doors and windows closed and the AC on, because my property is adjoining these motels' properties. And in this same room that we're sitting right now, we spoke with myself and other neighbors on my street, spoke with Mark Mizell, and over a year ago he promised us that he was going to put in sound attenuation equipment that he had ordered and lower the sounds that we were hearing at our houses, and none of that has ever happened. There's no sound attenuation ever been put in. And so the idea from the owner of the 801 that all we have to do is work with the owners and the neighbors and everything will be fine, well, we've just got lip service, and so far we've had no reduction in sound levels. And when we tried to complain to code enforcement, we were told that, I was told that because I was adjacent property, I was not allowed to file a complaint, and that if I kept on filing them, I'd be cited for doing that. And one of the neighbors on my street, who lives up on a second floor and can really hear it louder than I can, was visited by the police and code enforcement, who told her that she would be cited or arrested if she... Is this live? Okay. And the noise levels were very loud for all of us. And so we've been really having a big problem with this, and there hasn't been anything done to lower the noise levels. And I'm kind of a little bit put off by this whole meeting. I'm glad we're having this meeting, but at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's seems like political theater, because a lot of residents who might have complaints about noise can't come at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, whereas entertainers that are working at night and not during the day can be here to voice their opinions. But the citizenry that are working stiffs, I'm retired, they can't be here today because it's at 2 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock. So you're getting an unbiased, you're getting a very biased opinion of what should be done about the sound ordinances. I mean, I can't even imagine raising the decibel levels. It's so loud right now, it's just incredible. So we really need some help. We're on a street that's zoned HRO, Historic Residential Office. Offices close at 5, but our noise levels go till 11 o'clock at night. And so we need to be able to observe quiet after 5 o'clock in the evening and not allow a place to impact the rest of us on a quiet street because they're in a commercial district. So I'm not saying they need to lower their decibels, but they need to do some kind of sound attenuation to where the whole neighborhoods that are in residential areas aren't being affected by that. Thank you.
To address one of your statements, that's why we're having 3 meetings. The next one will be at 10 a.m. and then the last one for everybody. And believe me, everybody's invited to all these meetings. We wanted to try and get different perspectives before we had the last meeting, which will be at 5 o'clock. No, these are community meetings. Anybody can come. We're trying to focus on different areas of concern. Mr. Gilleran's admitted he's a business owner. He was at our meeting. Because guess what? He also lives here. So, and to address your other issue, Mr. Cohen, the reason we couldn't do anything for the disturbing noise complaint that was filed is because you live within 100 feet of the property, your property line. So we have to run a decibel meter. And it wasn't over the limit in the HRO district. So that's one of the things I tried to explain in the beginning. Not only is it frustrating to you as residents and business owners, it's frustrating to my department. Next question.
Check, check. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. My name is Kevin Hoyes, 908 Trinity, which is in Newtown. We are kind of on the edge of a single-family district near Habana Cabana, I think is the name of the hotel. They have pool parties 3 days a week, sometimes 4, but certainly Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday. They play incessantly. Sometimes not too bad. Sometimes you can hear it in the background, but there's no question that we have to close our windows, triple pane windows, to stop the noise. It means we can't sit outside, for example. We've certainly tried, as Mr. Gilleran said, we've tried to work with the neighbors, and it varies. One of my neighbors actually backs up onto that property. She's gone and met with the owners of that hotel probably a dozen times. And I'm sitting with her talking in her backyard, and it's impossible to talk because the noise is so loud. And the problem is when code comes out, not to her because she borders the property, but to us, which is over 100 feet away, it's a straight argument between us and code officers about whether it's a disturbing noise. Code officers make the determination that it's not disturbing, and we say, look, if we have to close our windows and can't sit outside, then it's disturbing our peaceful ability to enjoy the environment and our residents. But also in the statute, disturbing noise or and jarring due to volume, character, or duration, meaning if they're doing this over and over again, that's a big deal. Occasionally, who cares? But if it's going on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every weekend, we think that duration should be paid. There should be more attention by code officers paid to duration. And I also happen to think that a couple of great ideas were raised here today about maybe changing how we measure. And by the way, I love live music. I'm not opposed to live music. I like to go out and listen for the Songwriters Festival. It's not about pro or against music. It's just that you can't talk sometimes in your neighbor's property because the noise is so loud.
Thank you, Kevin.
It's on.
For me, right? Oh.
Warren.
By this point, everybody knows now. Ray Warren, 402 Porter Lane in Truman Annex. I have very briefly two subjects. One is I believe we're considered to be in the historic district, and the of gas sleep. Thing.
Sir, hold on a second.
Hello. It doesn't like those kind of mics, apparently.
All right. So is this better? Thank you. So I will be filing a complaint on the gas leak blower. I feel like that will be handled. However, I would suggest that every landscaping business be required to sign a statement that they understand that gas leak blowers are prohibited in Old Town and that they will follow it, just simply so that they can't say, we didn't know any better. And then you also have some evidence if there's an issue. Now, on to the music. We've been part of Key West for 20 years. 6 years now as full-time residents. We chose to live in Old Town. We know there's going to be some noise. I have never had a problem with Green Parrot, never had a problem with Willie T's, never had a problem with what is now Big Cheesy, which was called Lost and Found, and various other things in the past. Never had a problem with the Bull. So there is a distinct difference between places that choose to over-amplify and the traditional entertainment in Key West. There is a business on Caroline Street that amplifies as if they were the amphitheater. And it's an outdoor amplification. And when I complained to one of the owners, he said, you shouldn't have moved here. We've lived here longer than they've been there. It used to be a nice acoustic place. And I will leave it at that, but the question I would have for you is, I've never been able to reach anybody at code enforcement at night when, of course, this happens. Is there a way to reach code? You said till midnight, but I don't. If they say we'll come out the next night, it's not really that helpful because it's episodic. It happens now and then it doesn't.
You call the police non-emergency number after 5, 809-1000.
Thank you.
And you did mention the gas blowers. A wise person told me once, when you're right, be quiet. When you're wrong, admit it. As far as leaf blowers, they are covered as to the hours they can operate. So that gentleman that mentioned it, they're starting at 7 o'clock. If you want to, if you want to call and make a complaint, we will investigate it.
I also understand though that in Old Town you can't use gas leaf blowers at all. Thank you, Commissioner
Yes,
Week.
gas leaf blowers in Old Town are prohibited unless you have a half-acre property. Well, the city is more than a half acre.
Check.
Sometimes I do good on the fly. 2x4, 4x8. Next
Roger
question.
Gillis, 2823 Patterson. I'm going to introduce a new category of nuisance sound, and mine is 24/7. So I understand and appreciate people with intermittent sound problems, but this happens all the time. We live on the odd side of the street in the 2800 block, and we back up to the back of the Overseas Market shopping center. And we knew when we bought the house 19 years ago that trucks come and go. We would always know at 6 o'clock when the mail truck left. But as of December, there's a new restaurant that has been put in next to the post office. And they have installed a 30-foot by 10-foot outdoor refrigeration unit that sits outside. Now, they got a permit, so I don't know if the building department understood what this unit was going to be. But it has a big one of those Thermal King freezer things that runs 24/7. So we now have this sound that's always there. It never goes away. You can't sit outside and have a conversation. You can't go out in the morning with a cup of coffee and just sit there because it's noisy. Code compliance came. They did the rules as far as what the ordinance says, and commercial properties are allowed to emit up to 75 decibels. Well, if you look on the chart that we got, 80 decibels is a freight train at 100 feet. Well, you know, three decibels difference doesn't really make it that much quieter. They came on our property with their meter, and they said, we have to be the closest on your property to where the sound is. Well, Overseas Market, when it was first built, has an 8-foot wall between our property and the back of Overseas Market. So they are nestled up against this 8-foot wall, and that's where they made their reading. Well, I said, why don't you guys come in the middle of my deck? That's where the sound really comes to. And they said, oh no, we can't do that. That's not how it's supposed to work. So that's my problem. Nuisance sound 24/7. And you can hear it inside the house. So it's very uncomfortable. Just a quick little story. A couple of weeks ago, I was sitting outside, getting a little sun, had my eyes closed, and all of a sudden, something happened. And at first, I opened my eyes and I couldn't figure out what happened. I mean, I could see the blue sky was bluer. I could hear kids running down the street in front of my house. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me, something happened, that refrigeration unit, and all of a sudden I heard quiet, and it was beautiful. But within an hour, it was back on again. So that was my hour of enjoyment. So that's my thing for the note is 24/7 nuisance noise.
Thank
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Gillis, I know I'm pretty familiar with that issue, and I know the owner of the restaurant has ordered parts, right? And from what I understand from the code officer, he's removing that refrigeration unit, but I want to verify that with the code officer. Okay? Yes, like last week. All right, thank you. Thank you for all coming today. It's gone? He's going to replace it. I had one of my staff do a quick check because there was something on Facebook like, oh, here we go. Every 10 years, we've got to do the sound control. I didn't want to call you out, Gary. For the past 5 years, we've had 195 complaints just called into code, noise complaints. Out of those, 118 are loud music. barking dogs, 19, pool pumps, 14, leaf blowers, 13, generators, 4, and then loud construction sites, 27. Yes. Are they all different people? No, no, they're different complaints.
That's in 5 years total?
Yes.
Not too bad. 195 complaints in 5 years. I mean, do the math. That's really not that bad. Compared to other cities, I'm sure we're.
Yes. No, not the code hearing, just the complaints to the code department that we investigated.
So I'm curious as to how often you guys actually take a baseline reading for decibels outside of a music venue. For example, when they're not playing music, say it's 5 p.m. on a Friday night, how often do you take a baseline reading of the decibels being produced? Just from Duval Street even.
Never. We only respond to complaints.
Right. So I don't think a complaint should be judged by no baseline. When you're standing outside of Hank's, daytime, you are minimum 75 decibels. And according to your scale here, that's a classroom chatter, right? If you put 10 on that, which is what the restriction is, up until 2 a.m., you're at 85 decibels. If you're gonna plug any speaker in and play it on top of 75 decibels, I bet you create at least another 10 decibels of noise.
Right, and that's one of the issues with us using a decibel meter. Okay,
I don't
we have
think
to
the tool's
ask
the
them.
problem.
We have to
I
get a
think
reading.
The lack of a baseline is the problem.
Okay.
If you go to Sloppy Joe's, for example, and you took a baseline reading there 5 p.m. on a Friday, what do you think it's going to be? Completely different than something that you would take in Newtown with no venues around. So you can't treat each venue equally. To have Hank's as one venue being treated as one thing would be great in comparison to treating Sloppy Joe's as another. You can't expect every venue to create the same level of sound because they're not surrounded by the same things. It's perfectly logical for a homeowner in Newtown who has one bar that suddenly pops up creating an extra 35 decibels of sound that they're not used to, complaining. But to have someone downtown, half a block off of Duval Street, saying that an extra 10 decibels at this hour is not okay is a bit absurd.
Ma'am, the zoning of Hanks and Sloppy Joe's are completely different. Hanks is HRO with a 77 decibel maximum, and Sloppy Joe's is 94 decibel.
I don't.
Those are the facts.
I
Okay.
believe she's talking about compounded noise, okay?
Yes.
Again, I am a OSHA sound and vibration engineer. I don't want to keep bringing that up. But
Yeah, and you signed up, right?
There is a thing called compounded noise. Okay, that's why you take a baseline reading at the quietest time possible, which, as she says, at any point in town, in front of Sloppy Joe's or Hank's or anywhere downtown, is going to be noisy. So it's not that particular venue is creating 75 decibels. It's creating another 30 decibels on top of the 45 that are already there.
That it's competing with.
That it's competing with. Exactly. She's right on with what she's saying.
No, and I understand what she's saying. And let's say Jim's Bar on the corner of Green and Duval at 5 p.m. on a Friday. Of course, nobody's complaining. Okay? But at 10 o'clock at night, when the bands are playing, that's when we get the complaints against Jim's Bar. So then we go out, we have to run a decibel meter, we have to do an ambient noise reading, which I would consider somewhat like a baseline. We have to then take the measurement with the music playing.
Right, but you're not taking that difference in decibels. You're taking the whole.
Correct.
If I may make a suggestion based off that idea.
All those decibels, it's the combination of the two.
You're right.
So.
And 5 o'clock.
So if your ambient reading is 40 decibels and you're reading 90, that means the band's contributing 50 decibels to the sound.
You folks can't have a discussion without a microphone in your hand, please.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
And then I didn't have my hand up. I apologize. I just jumped in.
Having made that point, if I may make a suggestion that we could potentially explore as
Please.
an option to fixing this problem, perhaps each venue that wants to have an entertainment license gets to have a baseline reading at all hours that they're open to decide how many decibels they get to create on top of that baseline noise. So if it's 5 o'clock on a Friday, I don't care what zone you belong to or what your whatever building zone you're in doesn't matter. You should have a baseline reading and get an additional 30 decibels or whatever is deemed reasonable by the people who want to get involved on deeming it reasonable, assigned to that venue. And it might have to change between Wednesday night and Saturday night. And it might have to change between February and April. You know, that's what the city's for, getting involved in making tiny decisions like that. And I'm sorry, but democracy's uncomfortable, so everyone's gonna have to give and take.
Can you attend my budget workshop? Because I'm going to be asking for 30 code officers. Next
Good.
question.
Thank you. Thank you for having this gathering. It's a tough one. Noise comes in many different forms. I'm in the 24/7 nuisance category, and what's really bothering us in our residential neighborhood, and I'm speaking for us. My name is Stan Day, and I'm at 416 Elizabeth. What's bothering us and our neighbors in our area are actually wind bells, and these wind bells clang 24/7, and we have the prevailing wind, and they're loud. It's intrusive into our living room. A gust comes up in the middle of the night, and they wake you up like an alarm clock. It's really tough. The interesting thing is, I think the ordinance covers this. I think the ordinance as written covers this. And Mr. Young, we brought a formal complaint to you, and you said the exception was church bells and chimes, and there's an exception under there for church bells and chimes. I think that's an interpretation issue. And the reason I think that's an interpretation issue is that, for instance, if St. Mary's rang their bells 24/7, you would do something about it. Wind bells driven by our prevailing winds are clanging all day long and all night long, and they affect our ability to peacefully enjoy our residence. And that's part of disturbing noise. So I would ask for you just to enforce the ordinance as written. If you can't see how that logically applies, please invite us into your office and have a conversation. Thank you.
To address your question, Mr. Day, I didn't decide on my own. We're not going to open a code case. I took your complaint to the legal department and had 3 city attorneys review it, and they opined that wind chimes are exempt. Church bells and chimes.
Please invite us into that.
Now, if you want to suggest to the commission they include wind chimes and remove it from the exception, would you please note that, Ashley? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Next question.
Hi, good afternoon. Toonie Hamlin. I live at 419 Porter Lane, and we were talking about noise. We all love music in Key West. We all love music all kinds of day. I have one venue, though, that is on Caroline Street that was mentioned before by the name of Hank's. I don't care whether they start the music at 11:30 in the morning, 11:15, 11:30 in the morning. It's fine. But I do object with the high decibel of the music at 11:30 at night, like last night. I did not call court enforcement because they don't really enforce. I don't mind it during the day. I don't mind it in the evening, but I would like to get some sleep. I like to open my windows, and even if my triple glazed windows are closed, I can still hear it, and I am more than 100 feet away and where I live, about a third of a mile. And I think it's excessive. Many years ago, the music was not loud there at night. Now it is. And they do not understand. We have tried to talk to them to lower the decibels. The green parrot is fine. We don't hear that except earlier in the evening. They do not raise the decibels at night late. But like Hanks does. I hate to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Justin Angelo, and I'm a local musician in town. I would like to say something. So, in my 5 years of playing here, I have never been told to turn down by a bartender, by a venue, by anybody complaining. To everybody here who has a problem with excess sound, I just want to say that I empathize with you for your children, for your lives, for your livelihood. I do. At the same time, I do not want to be marginalized by a group that we are not all playing at the same rates. We're not all playing at the same noise levels. At a lot of the places I go, I have to take my own system. I'm a certified audio engineer. I can play this stuff, walk over, see how it's going, read my decibel meter, know we're good, and if someone comes up to me and asks me to turn down, I will happily do so. I am so happy to be able to follow my dreams and be able to do what I love as a musician. But my concern is that if this keeps happening, and I don't mean to put any pressure on anybody, but over time, if the situation is all about the music noise, then maybe the city should be looking into some type of silent disco situation where you spend tons of money to either get a good sound system in there where you have a required sound engineer at every single venue, or you buy a whole system that has wireless headphones and everybody who comes in has to put those on. I don't think anybody wants to see that happen. I think it's totally unreasonable. I think it's ridiculous. The other thing I would like to mention is that to have all these musicians here at this time of the day, I called off work. I sacrificed my money. I sacrificed my time. Thank you. I love to support the people and the places and the camaraderie that we all have. I also would like to note that I don't want to be marginalized by the group. I think these things happen at certain times, and I think there's certain people that we can be talked to, and I think that they would be more than willing to try to bridge the gap. I'm here to try to bridge the gap. I don't have a complaint. I went through the stuff that I went through to be able to do my job specifically, and I know that I require a place like this that allows me to be able to do my job, and I don't want to see tons of separation between my job and the people that are complaining about certain noise ordinances. I'm actually happy that there are other people here who are not complaining about music. That shows that this is a broader issue than just what we are dealing with. For the people who have homes, who bought a home that's near a music venue, there has to be some type of accountability when it comes to, are you buying a place to, live there and reside, or are you buying it to flip it? And in my experience, having a law in place that is going to have all these places be fined all the time, that supports the city, and it's actually within the agenda to be able to get more money out of people like me who don't make a lot of money in general. I mean, you go to other towns, I've been to other towns all over the country, and to get a proper rate as a musician is very difficult. It's something we all have to go to. I don't want to see all my hard work go to waste because somebody doesn't want to meet me in the middle. I'm willing to meet you in the middle. Will you meet me? Thank you.
Wendy Vanderwegen, 204 Fleming. I've lived here since 2015, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the live music culture in Key West. It's one of the reasons I moved here. Absolutely love it. I understood that when I moved here near the entertainment district that there would be noise, and I live with it, and I'm perfectly fine with it, and I think I'm probably the majority of people who moved here because of the culture that we have. So I just wanted to give a positive thumbs up to live music. Yes, maybe we need some regulations, but they shouldn't be undue restrictions and all this, fining stuff that, please talk to each other. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Turner Harrison. I live at 1221 Florida, around the corner here, and I'm a musician in town. Been playing down here since 2011, and I play 4 nights, pretty much late night, a week at Willie T's. And I just had a few things to say. The first is that at Willie T's we have our own decibel meters. They're sometimes working, sometimes not, since Vlad's gone. You know Vlad, huh? He used to take care of that. But we always had a decibel meter right in front of us, a TV that just showed a huge number, you know, and they gave us our level. And I've never been over. I've never had anyone come to say turn it down, even when the decibel meter's not working, because I care about my health. And you know, your ears can tell you as a musician if you're over or not. And I have friends, I'm not going to mention any names, they go too loud because they're deaf. We've been doing it too long. So then in that case, you need someone to tell you. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, just me, I know it's a personal thing, but it's person to person. But if someone came up to me, no matter who it is, tourist or a guy off the street, and said like, hey, it's crazy loud, like I can't hear myself think, would you mind turning down? I always do. And so that's really the Willie T's take, except for the other thing I wanted to say is every Saturday night, there's this one guy who has like 4 speakers pointed out of his car windows. So he can't hear the music too much, but it's just for the other people's enjoyment, I guess. But he's so loud that I have to stop. Like I hear him coming a mile away, and I have to just stop playing and do this. And everyone in the bar does at Willie T's because it's so loud. I would guess. I mean, I would guess he's well over 120 decibels where I'm standing 50 feet from him. You know, so it's like it's crazy loud, like ear damaging loud. And I know that. My grandmother came down a few years ago to visit me. She stayed at Simonton Court, and she had the room that was right on the street on Simonton. The only one thing she remembers from her time in Key West are scooter horns. She's just like, scooter horns. They'd be at the stop sign, just horn, horn, horn all night long. And I'm like, you're right, that does happen. And yeah, I don't know. Vehicle restriction downtown, I think it's a different issue. Obviously, we're not going to talk about it. But if it was just a walking district and you only had music playing, then I think you would hear the music a lot as you do now. But imagine the decibel amount that's compounded from vehicles too, and all that kind of stuff. It's just not music, is what I'm saying. It's not only music. We do have a high density of live venues, so of course we produce a lot of sound. Downtown especially, and I totally sympathize with people who live in a place like, you know, down on, if they're around the corner from a guest house somewhere and the guest house is just blaring electronic music all day long. I see the party aspect of it, but it's like, I mean, your guests around a pool at your hotel, like you're not, what kind of techno party are you really throwing? What kind of rave are we having over here? So I totally sympathize too, and you know, we have jet noise. We have so much going on that disturbs all of us every day. But that's kind of part of Key West, which is the pearl at the end of the entire Keys. If we curb the entertainment industry in Key West, no one's gonna be driving the rest of the Keys. That's just gonna take all the money away from those people. That's the reason the reason anyone goes to Marathon. Sorry if you're from Marathon. I don't know. Marathon. You know, the only reason people stop in Marathon is because they're not to Key West yet and they want something to do. I'm serious. It's the truth. And all right. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I don't know. My only other comment is, I'm sorry, I don't have a question either. My only other comment is that I play Hanks once a week and with a 3-piece. And we've always been really conscious about the sound. And before they changed the sound system, it was deafening. It was really hard to play there. I would wear one earplug, which I never do, and you can't hear yourself sing very well when you have one earplug in. I would wear one earplug, and it was too loud, but it's just the way that the acoustics were set up in the space. And all I want to say is to everyone who complains about Hanks, like, they're doing the work. They built a wall. They changed the sound system. They have a sound man. The decibel level is so far down. It's hard for me to hear properly playing now, but it is maybe the level that the space needs as it's set up now, and they could rethink the space to protect their neighbors better. But you know, I wouldn't complain too much about them because they're doing the work. It's like if you're like, please help me do this, and then the person's helping and then you're still yelling at them, that doesn't help. You know what I mean? You're just gonna make them angrier and they're not going to want to do the work. So if we all just work together as a community and say like, I dislike this, can we work through it us, like without involving the cops? That's what I'm saying. Like, why do you have to involve the city? It's good to have restrictions and everyone understand the restrictions. Businesses usually comply, Businesses don't like getting fined. They don't like talking to the cops. You can believe that Hanks hates talking to the cops every night because that's what it is now. Cops come by every night, talk to them. No one likes that. So all I'm saying is just give them a break. They're working on it. All of us as musicians, we love what we do here. We want to live here with you guys. We love you guys, You're we love you guys, Charlie. No, we do. We love retirees. We love the day workers who come out and have drinks. Like, those are our people. Those are the people we know that we can call by name when they come to our show. Like, those are our fans. And we need you. You need us too. That's where the people, this is what makes this place unique. Otherwise, it's just Naples.
Hi, my name is Susan Mitchell, 824 Terry Lane, and I just want to say I feel like the luckiest girl in the world because I live in close proximity to Hemingway House, and I get to, sometimes, if I'm lucky, I get to hear people laughing and dancing, and I don't call that noise, I call that true love. And I always say a prayer when I hear a wedding. May they live happily ever after, even though they're strangers. I see it as a lullaby, not as noise. I also live in close proximity to Ram's Head, Blue Heaven, and Andy's Cabana. Same thing. I'd never consider that noise. It's incredibly talented musicians, and I feel like I'm a fan. And just down the street from me, I'm very, very proud to live near Bahama Village Music School. I wish I could hear them practicing, but it's a few blocks down. But I do know many of the musicians who we're listening to that are incredibly talented, learned their skills through Bahama Village Music School, and I want to support my local neighbors who are musicians and who are incredibly talented. And to refer to their music as noise breaks my heart a little bit.
Yeah, hey, my name's, or is this thing on? We good? My name's Bill Howells. I'm on 818 Whitehead, and I just wanted to maybe concur with a lot of people that are here that the noise at night, it's amazing, and I absolutely love it. I think that, a lot of people come down to Key West for a certain reason, and that's for the entertainment, that's here, and to suggest that narrow out Hanks, it didn't always be that way. Well, Hanks wasn't always successful either. And to suggest that, a smoking ban is similar to something like that, and they're somehow going to be more profitable because they're going to lower their volume. They are an entertainment district. They are an entertainment business, and their job is to entertain. They're not a smoking establishment where their job is to smoke. So I don't think that that's a very valid referral. I do have an idea, though. I'm not just here to yell or scream. I just in noticing, I see a big difference that there seems to be a lot of complaints about hotels and music that comes from hotels versus bars and restaurants and music that comes from it. And I would suggest that if your primary business is an entertainment business, then you should be allowed to entertain. And if your primary business is a hotel, then your primary business is to be a hotel. So why you could possibly have different sound requirements for how that entertainment license is developed. And so, if the Casa Marina is doing fireworks or Havana Cabana is having a pool party, well, that's not what they're there. They're making their money off of the tourists that are there staying the night. They're not necessarily making their money off of the loud pool party that's there. But to suggest that, Hanks or Willie T's or any of these places that we all love and go is in the same boat as a 100-room hotel, I don't think that's a fair comparison. I would suggest that change.
Hello, my name is Lisa Walker. I live at the Salt Ponds. I would
I guess I have a question for you. In the beginning, you stated you didn't want to close any bars or ruin any businesses. Not okay. Not. I'm paraphrasing. Right. Your goal is not. But if a noise ordinance in that district, you want to enforce something lower at an earlier time, would be closing them down because they would close early, and the workers would not get paid, and you couldn't have a musician from 10 to 2 or 11 to 1. So in essence, you would be closing them down. You're shortening the gap. And another point I would like to make is some people work till 8 or 9. We would like to go out and see the other musicians and relax and have a drink and talk. So therefore, we can't do that either. So now we're working till 9, want to go see someone at 10, can't because they're closing at 11. Okay, so we see them for an hour. But that's my point. In a roundabout way, you will be shutting them down. And I'm sorry for the people that live next to these places.
I think what I meant to say was the city's goal, and remember my definition of city is not just people that work for the city or elected officials, it's everybody in this room and all the business owners, is trying to come up with a solution to address the complaints that we get and to also recognize the musicians' rights and the bar's rights to operate and try to figure out how we can do that and coexist. Not to say, all right, you're Jim's bar, we're tired of you, and you're closed. I mean, I've been in bars, and I've seen some of their staff wearing earplugs. How fair is it to them, the employees? So what we're trying to develop is a plan to make everybody happy. Can that happen? Who knows? Maybe not, but at least we're willing to try. Yes, sir?
My name's Matt Durning. Hello, Matt Durning. And there's 2 points I'd like to make. Robbery is a crime. Rape is a crime. Murder is a crime. But playing music in public in the afternoon in a free society can never be a crime. So, I'm one of the street musicians, and I would never like to have that taken away from me because it's my outlet, you know. It's what keeps me going. I'm expressing my feelings in public, and that's what keeps me alive. And the other point I'd like to make is there's a lot of places in this world to go if you want peace and quiet. But Duval Street in Key West is really not one of them. And people come down here to be ruckus and rowdy and have a good time. And if you like peace and quiet, I mean, I don't want to be rude, but I suggest you go somewhere else.
My name is Todd Santoro. I live at 818 Whitehead Street in the HNC3 district, which for some of you that don't know, it's called Historic Neighborhood. It's not Duval Street corridor. It's not the party area. When I bought my place, it was a very quiet neighborhood. Prior to that, I think it was very rowdy. But we had a restaurant that closed at 2 p.m. We had nothing that was on another corner. It was they sold hats. I'm not in the industry. I am a professional, and I work 40 hours a week, like most of you, if not more. And I do enjoy having peace and quiet. Loudness and music and so on and so forth was brought to my front doorstep and to a lot of my neighbors' doorsteps. I have a neighbor that I think spoke today that doesn't even live in the neighborhood. They live on a sailboat somewhere else, and don't get to experience the 7 day or 5, 6, 7 day a night party at the Hemingway House. We're gearing up for the Ram's Head all day fest. We get that at certain times of the year that there's going to be some loudness, but to have 4 or 5 nights a week where you can't sit on your patio and you can't listen to the TV or have a conversation with the neighbor, it's upsetting. And I am for putting some restrictions in. Nobody's trying to shut down bars, singers, songwriters. I think we need all of that. But there's got to be some limitations and there's got to be some give and take. That's it.
Gary, you want to use mine? And live from Key West, the Reverend Gecko.
Has to be. Commissioners, humans, Mr. Young, it's good to be here. My name's Gary Eck. I live at 201 Margaret Street at the historic Seaport. We have different issues there. I've been a sound engineer in this town. I've worked at several of the restaurants and with a lot of these musicians to make them heard, because there's a difference of the two things we're discussing. One is noise, the other is music. Bad music is also noise. So, it flips back and forth. As we continue to kill trees, we're taking down the one thing that was protecting us from the music. Maybe not the noise, but absorption. There's 3 laws of sound. Mr. Brumley, you might agree. Maybe all the rest of you sound engineers in that corner will agree. There's amplification, projection, and absorption. Somewhere in there is reflection. That's when the music jumps out of Hank's mysteriously and lands in your backyard or by your pool. I don't know what causes it. I'm thinking maybe the lack of trees. Trees do break it up. You can stand below the Garden of Eden and barely hear the music on the roof. And those are naked people up there. It's not bouncing off of anything. But the way the speakers were set up, the way it was toned down, I've noticed that Hank's over the past week or two, much better levels at night. Few of the others, Ram's Head, some of you guys are neighbors to a lot of these things. I live on a boat with a cat. I saw a man with a T-shirt, Captain Boo for mayor. Captain Boo don't even jump when they shoot the cannon off on the Jolly Rover every night. Every night. But some things that disturb him are like the constant Coast Guard running a generator behind us. Sounds like they're demolitioning a boat. I don't know what they're doing, but they start doing it relatively early, and I'm not going to go over to the Coast Guard and tell them to turn down. Nor when the Navy jets fly over our boat. We're not going to go tell them or the helicopters, hey, you're a little too loud. We just kind of tolerate it. Living next to a bar, if the music's too loud, I think Jim Gilleran said it best, mediation worked for them. Go over there and talk to them. Sit down one-on-one and work it out before you bring it to code enforcement, before you bring it to this council. There are some tweakings with this law that we went over 10 years ago when Jesse Wagner and the Happy Dog Band came in and sang, was it This Land Is Your Land, acoustically, and we're at 96 decibels. So, yes, the decibel law is a tricky business. Charlie and I would both volunteer to help you guys. Teaching your code enforcement agents how to use the equipment, very good. We didn't have that 10, 15 years ago. Blue Heaven had one chronic complainer across the street. No matter what we did, put a small speaker at every table so we could lower the levels down. He would call code enforcement. We'd stand in front of the big fan out back from the restaurant, and it was way louder than the music. We have to compromise. And the people that are residences, yes, we feel for you. I don't have a horse in this race. I'm not running sound. I'm not doing bars. All the bands that have come out today are my favorite bands. And thank you. You got your own mic now? You're good?
Yes.
You want this one? See, that one don't work either. Jason, what are you doing back there? Here, let's switch. Thank you, everybody. My question is, let's stop killing the trees.
Hi,
Yes,
my
sir.
name's Kevin. I actually think this is a great person to follow. My suggestion is purely that the city can, when they redo the code, provide some sort of arbitration so that it's not just complaints where you're feeling like you're calling code and not getting anywhere. And you're not just a bar being fined or a musician being fined or whatever the case may be. There can be a means, a specific set of guidelines that the city provides for arbitration to provide that opportunity so that different businesses and residences can sit down and talk things out and figure out exactly what the issues are.
Yes, yes, that is a great idea, and that's already in our ordinance. However, it's called a mediation, where the city manager shall conduct a mediation between the two parties, but we have to have a violation from the special magistrate first. So maybe tweak that you don't need a violation. Who knows? But that's a good point. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, my name is Marjorie Lee. I'm a local musician. Know many of you in the room. I'd first and foremost like to say I'm not a cigarette, and neither are my friends that play music. I don't think that we should be thought of in that way. Cigarettes are bad for you. Music is not. I don't know if anybody, outside of the music, that gets on Facebook. I don't know if you go to like the local Key West, like locals or whatever, people from out of town, they get on those Facebook sites, and the things that they ask about: who plays music where, what's the best music to go and see, what bars and restaurants should I go to, what should I enjoy when I'm in town. It never says, where's the quietest Airbnb that I can go to? But the irony, thank you. The irony here is that we as musicians, servers, the bars, the things that make your housing values, property values skyrocket, we are the source of that. We are the reason that your property values are so high. However, you want to convert your properties into Airbnbs. It's all going to be cyclical. It's all going to come down on your heads at some point if you don't find a way to help support us in the service industry. You're going to have Airbnbs with people who come down, and they're going to be looking for bars and restaurants and entertainment to come and see, and they're not going to have it because we can't live here. So you want to take the money out of our wallets? You want to overcharge us for housing? Go ahead, have fun in 5 years. I do feel for everybody who's having to deal with a little bit higher decibel reading, and we should try and meet you somewhere. But I can tell you that me and several other people in this room, if we go, I'm so glad you brought up the bass line. So glad. And yes, I'm shaking because I get that way when I have to do public speaking. Sing any day of the week on the microphone, but don't make me speak. If you take the bass line and you take a microphone away from me, I can beat your decibel reading. I can sing on that level without a microphone. So I'm sitting next to a drummer. Okay? I would like to find a way to have other people play with me as well, because you realize if we don't give some sort of lenience so that we can have drummers and bass players and bands, you're never going to get those shows at the Key West Theater with full band, local artists. You're never going to get the stuff at the amphitheater with full band local artists. We'd have to ship in drummers. They can't make a living. I mean, it's like any ecosystem where you're sitting there and like, oh, we took the wolves out and now we got a whole new problem. Good luck when you take the entertainment out. So I don't know, just something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Check.
Okay.
Check.
I
Check.
have time for two more questions because we need to start wrapping it up.
Check.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Check. Is it working? Okay, cool. I was just wondering. I don't hear it anything, but yeah. In the as it goes, she was talking about the local color basically being.
Your mic's not
really,
working.
Is this really okay? Okay, this is what the city knows about sound. Okay. Gee. I think we have a problem here. What we used to be considered as local color has totally turned black and white. I've been a professional drummer for over 40 years. But what it really comes down to is for the last 10, I haven't been able to perform because of local ordinances. What the lady said over there is totally true. And as a matter of fact of color, I would like to know what kind of decibel readings you're going for the city ordinance. Are you measuring white sound, pink sound, brown sound? I mean, because all our professional decibel readers measure all of these sounds. And I was just wondering where your meter stands.
We do according to NSEI standards, and we measure in dBA or dBc. I don't know about white, green, purple. We measure according to the industry standards. Okay. And we take measurements of dBA and dBc. Okay, thanks. All right, yes, sir?
Hi, I'm Jay Blattrell, and I'm representing the Heroes Bar on Southern Street, and we were subject to the conditional use approval that required that digital system to be monitored by you 24/7, and it works great, but placing the microphone is difficult because we are packed in on that street, and our property line is like right there 2 inches away from the building. There is no outer area around it. So if you're going to look at 100 feet, I have to put the microphone on Pegasus. And I don't have an approval from Pegasus to power my microphone and digital system and get a repeater to get the data over there. So the readings are a little misleading because it's so close to the speakers relative to what somebody would hear on the other side of the street. So that's a limitation on having a digital system that you want to see all the time, because decibel readings go down with distance and with angle. So as far as people complaining about disturbing their peace and quiet, if you were in a library with virtually no sound other than Brownian motion on your eardrums, and somebody started talking in a whisper, that would be disturbing. So the sound ordinance is all relative, and it's logarithmic, and it's difficult to pinpoint. When the fellow said white noise and purple noise and everything, that's true. You were talking about baselines and additive noise levels and pinning that on somebody. It's a very complicated system in terms of determining what is noise, what is amplitude, where does it come from, and how somebody hears it. You can be disturbed at very low levels or very high levels. The difference is in high levels, it might be painful. So that should be turned down. But another issue I'd like to raise is supporting the musicians over there. Our bar would not exist without music. People come to the bar to hear the music. They don't come to get drunk. That may be a side effect, but they come for the music. They come to dance and have a good time. Thank you.
Jim, there's one more final question over here, and then we can move on to closing remarks.
Okay.
I just had one final question. I heard you say that in the last 5 years there's been 119 noise complaints, and I mean that's 2 a month.
No, 195 total. 118.
Yeah, 118 were regarding music.
Loud music.
Loud music. So 118 over 5 years
Yes.
is 2 a month. How
Yes.
many bars are there in Key West? Do we really have a problem?
Well played. I don't know how many bars there are, but I've been trying to visit all of them. Along with my buddy, Jim Scholl. All right, sir, you wanted one last question or a statement?
My name is Jack. I've lived here for 10 years. I used to live at 410 Caroline for about 8 years. I was there, yeah. A lot of people knew I lived there. And I was there when Grunts was there, and they were incredibly quiet, and now they're closed. I saw Hanks go in. They were pretty loud, but they were rocking business. And I know, having lived across the street for 8 years, I had to just deal with it. It was a cheap apartment. The house at 410 Caroline is almost 200 years old. It's, in my opinion, since I lived there, it was falling apart. The windows are single pane. I feel like more could be done for the people who are complaining if they would just take care of themselves instead of requiring everyone around them to quiet down when they come back after they've been gone for a decade. That's my personal opinion. If you want to be neighborly, handle your own business first. I think maybe if you're going to make a complaint, it should be noted whether or not you're doing what is appropriate first before you command other people to do that. Also, I want to say that I think 94 decibels is restrictive. I think it should be 100 decibels because after it got turned down to 94 decibels, I'd be talking to my audience, and from here to 10 feet away, they wouldn't be able to even hear me. They'd be going, "What? I can't hear you. Is this microphone on?" And it just felt too restrictive. I understand there's some sort of middle ground. I don't think musicians should be able to do anything they want. There should be some sort of limit, but I want it to be reasonable and productive. And again, I think both sides need to work at it, not just people who want peace and quiet in the middle of a busy downtown section. I don't think they are the priority. I think it's all of us together working on compromise.
Thank you. So we're going to skip the group feedback and review recorded notes because there's just too many. My plan is to put all the notes on the code compliance website after each of these community meetings. Okay. Also, I have a bunch of my business cards. Call me crazy in the back if you want to pick one up. And at this point, I'd like to see if Commissioner Weekly or Commissioner Lopez would like to make any closing remarks.
Yeah, I've been through this battle a number of times, and there always seems to be a way in which to find a common ground, a middle ground on this. I think we all recognize the fact that music is important to this community and to our visitors. But also we have to recognize the fact that people have a right to have a quiet and tranquility life in their homes as well. So you need to find a way in which to do that. Let me tell you about the history, because a lot of you don't know the history. When I was growing up in Key West was a Navy town. We had equal number of bars and churches. But you know what? The bars were air conditioned. The bars had their doors closed. There were not any issues. Over the years, as time passed, things changed, like everywhere. People wanted to be outdoors. The doors came open. Businesses found ways in which to be able to provide outdoor music for people that we're looking for that. So as the years have passed, it's become more and more music-oriented community. I don't have a problem with that. I love music. I would like to correct something that was said earlier tonight. I was here when the Beatles came, and believe me, the Beatles did not play with any of the local musicians here. They were all at the old Key Western Motel, and that's where they stayed. They went to some of the businesses that were on Duval Street at the time. Believe me, if the Beatles were playing here with local musicians, I would have been there. You know, and I know a lot of other people would have been there. So I don't know where he got that information from. That's entirely erroneous. So we're looking to find a middle ground, somewhere that the residents are happy, the musicians and businesses are happy. That's always been a goal. We've been able to reach it a number of times, but then bounds are overstepped. And that's what we have to make sure, that we're able to give everyone what they're looking for. The residents their peace and tranquility, the musicians their ability to be able to play music and make money. And that's what we're looking for. That's what I'm here. That's why I came to hear what everybody has to say. So when we meet and we go over the questions and the notes that we're taking, we can start looking at ways in which to find a way in which to satisfy everyone's concerns, and to also be able to bring about an ordinance that is supported by the community. You know, we all can't get what we want. We all have to have a piece of the pie. So let's work with that goal in mind. I appreciate everyone taking the time to come here this afternoon. I'm not going to be able to attend the meeting on the 15th because I'll be out of town, but I will be here on the 24th when everyone comes back in here. I hope by the 24th we can have some kind of notion of where we're going with the ordinance. You know, I know this is the first step. I know there was a question asked about how soon will this come before the commission. Well, since the commission's only meeting once a month now, starting in June, it may not be until September or October, or maybe even later than that. But at some point in time, it'll be an ordinance. And what I would like to see done prior to it coming before the commission, that we have another workshop once the ordinance is drafted, so we can all look at that ordinance, see what you're comfortable with, see what changes you would like to make, to recommend. But the bottom line is that we have to respect each other. You have to respect the residents and their desire for peace in their homes and be able to have conversations. Not only the residents, but other businesses. I get complaints about Willie T's from other businesses because from 11 o'clock in the morning on, there's music being played and it's disruptive to them and to some of their customers. So, you know, we have to find that balance. And that's why I'm here, is to listen, to take notes, and see how we can move forward on this issue. Good.
Cheers. Okay. Well, mine may be a little bit louder because I'm one of those people that can out-sing the drummer. But and by the way, in the church, the bars were air conditioned and the churches were hot. just straight up. And one more thing, Commissioner Weekly, that while the Beatles didn't play with any of our local musicians, one of our legendary local musicians played for them. That was Coffee Butler, right, many years ago. But all that said, I agree with everything you said, and that's that. And I heard some wonderful things. One of the things I heard someone say was build a bridge. Another thing I heard was compromise. Well, that's essentially the same thing, and that's what I'm looking for. You know, I understand. I've got people in my district that have been dealing with this not just for months, not just a couple years. They've been dealing with this for a long time with just a particular place in their area. I get that. I understand where they're coming from. You know, I have a problem with someone being in their home and not being able to rest easy because of, and it's not noise, but loud music. Call it what you will, but still, if it's too loud for you to be comfortable in your home, then it's too loud. And by that same token, you know what? As far as the musicians go, guys, I'm a musician myself, so I get that side of it too. You know, and again, the compromise. Let's find the area there, as Jim said, where he said where someplace where all of us will be happy. Well, I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, but if we can somehow get to that point where it's something that all of us can live with, then that's where I want to go. Enough said.
Oh, I want to thank everybody that came here today, and especially the people that took off work. The next meeting will be May 15th at 10 a.m. In the Commission chambers. Have a good day. Thank you.
That was nice, Commissioner John there. That was nice. Thank you. Christopher Trellis.